Good morning, everyone. My name is Olivier Dauvert. I'm going to be supporting you about SIAL Innovation. The first innovation, of course, is that we're coming from behind. That's a way to innovate. Until we stage this, I'll be supported by Nicolas Tranteau. Follow me, General Manager of SIAL Group, General Director of the SIAL Paris exhibition in a few weeks' time. First question, what do you should know about the event 2018 in a nutshell? What will mark and highlight this event, which has been around for 54 years? The turning point, the transition, the change, that's the buzzword, the key word of the event 20. We talked about transition, energy transition. We're talking about revolution, virtual revolution, digital transformation. Today we're getting into the food transition. It's a good word, a fad, discovering a new trilogy which will base food, taste, authenticity, and sense or meeting. Three buzzwords, as it were. SIAL will be a sounding board for this change, helping players to decipher change and know what will influence tomorrow's eating habits. Okay, a few figures. SIAL means in Paris, the largest agri-food lab, think tank, 200,000 players in the business for 5 days, 200,000 place buyers, exhibitors, producers, visitors producing the product. In terms of size, 100,000 supermarkets together, 27 hectares, and 400,000 products being displayed for 5 days, something which is gigantic, huge. Restaurants, startups galore, a lot of content, and a premise will be, of course, held inspiration for your food business. We talked about transition. The word is present in the public debate, in the advertising slogans. Why is it important to talk about transition or transformation? How could this be fleshed out in the food sector? It's a basic change carried by the consumer who would like to have a transition which is also taken up by all the agribusiness industrialists. It's part of a strategy of all the players, producers, retailers. What's important is that the transition is necessary today, necessary to face up to the food challenges today and tomorrow. Today, because do not delude ourselves, the food situation is not easy. Globally, out of 8 billion people, 4 billion suffer from malnutrition. Out of the 8 billion, 1 person in 2 is malnourished. Half people eating too much, suffering from overweight or obesity, creating a public health issue. The other half is malnourished people. 800,000 people, 800 million people are suffering from famine. It's important because of 2050, and we'll have 100 million inhabitants to feed Canada plus France 50 years from now. It is indispensable. This will require revisiting our farming agribusiness models. It's a real challenge for everyone, of course. 2 main reasons: access to food and demographics. Obviously, it is what will structure, organize the industry. How can SIAL support this transition in food? You're referring to SIAL is a worldwide incubator. It has a global vision. It's present around the world with all the exhibitions. We're in Paris, Canada, China, Indonesia, India, Middle East. SIAL means the richness of meeting all these exhibitors, all these 400,000 products displayed at SIAL Paris. Beyond the products, SIAL is staging this transition through flagship events such as SIAL Innovation, Cuisine, Alternative Food Lab, and Future Lab. Very quickly, SIAL Innovation means it's our baby, namely the barometer of innovation. 2,500 products being deciphered and studied. to identify their innovative side, cuisine to stage the products, to taste them, a new facilitation alternative food, which will focus on products will highlight taste, authenticity, and meaning or sense, plants, organic well-being of animals. Will have in this alternative space a space of non-stop conference. We'll have the Future Lab, which is to project into the 30 next years. We're looking at low signals present, which will influence purchasing. Also, we're talking about startups. Startups are key to the ecosystem. And last, we'll focus on AI to see to what extent it can influence both consumption and production, of course. What's an immersive tunnel? It's a black box, the immersive tunnel. Three buzzwords you pronounced. Genuine, authenticity, and sense. How you get there? They're not coming from nowhere. Yes, it characterizes the event. In 2018, three buzzwords correspond to a change and embodiment of eating well, good for my body, indulgent, and to please my body. It's good for my health, for my body. Increasingly, there's a link between food and health, and also it's good for the society and the environment. The strategy was built in our exchange with our 15,000 industrialists, but also through a piece of research set up worldwide to really measure, understand the supply and demand. We have three parts of a study, namely one devoted to consumer expectations done by the Food 360 study. Second is the product barometer. We've been following for 20 years with XTC, and a new part of our study, the out-of-home catering. Worldwide, catering is the forerunner of what's going to happen at home. What is fascinating is to carry out the three studies and analyzing and sharing their findings. Now let's get into every of the three studies in 12 minutes. All the results will be in the press kit on your USB key. You get more figures. Let us start with the consumer behavior, who will influence the strategies of industrialists Pascal Grelot-Girard, TNS, who conducted the study Food 360. How do consumers behave in France and worldwide in 12 minutes? What should you know about 2018? Pascal Grelot-Girard. First, we're facing a real tidal wave carried by the consumer demand in terms of taste, authenticity, and meaning. This tidal wave expresses and reveals really the consumers taking over in terms of their food. This study was conducted in 10 countries, 4 European countries, France, Spain, UK, and Germany. Also in Russia, US, Asian countries, China, and some Southeast Asian countries and Middle East. First off, what it means in terms of taste. Taste was something which is key for consumers, as always one of the main criteria for choice. To repurchase if you don't like the taste of it, you won't buy it again if you don't like the taste because it's not matching your needs or requirements. You're not going to buy it, and brands know this for a fact. I did some research on the web yesterday. We have more than 50 slogans of food brands based upon the notion of taste. Consumer tastes today are changing, are evolving. They're rather sophisticated, perfected, quality-based. as it were. We realized that in our study that about 7 consumers out of 10 are expecting products which are higher quality, better quality products. This 66% score goes up to 1 to 2 in the UK, but also 3 out of 4 consumers in Spain and in Asian countries in the Middle East. What's more, in addition, 6 consumers out of 10 like to discover new foodstuffs. It's a score which is consistent among different countries, which is increasing, has been increasing since 2012 by 3 points. This craze for new foodstuffs means opportunities for agri-food business, for new tastes, new textures, new sensations, new association combinations. However, it must be part and parcel of an indulgence. Food means indulgence, of course. They go together. As proof thereof. Am I too fast? Okay, sorry. Results, findings are those of your own countries. In most countries of Europe, a combination of food and indulgence increased to get scores which are quite high. In Germany, 7 Germans out of 10 combine indulgence into food, a 10-point increase. It's also for France, 6 out of 10 consumers, an increase of 4 points. Spain, 6 out of 10 consumers, a large increase of 16 points since 2012. Also, it's the case in the UK, although the score is slightly lower, which is not astounding. We get to 51%, 53% of consumers, and an increase of 7 points. What does it reveal? Taste contributes broadly to creating indulgence when you consume a new product. That's why consumers expect high-quality products, but also there are tasty, savory. It doesn't suffice for consumers to be indulgent, and they must make sure of their choice. And eating well is combined with eating healthily and in a balanced manner. It is true for France. Now let's move on to the authenticity. What is authentic? What does it mean for the consumers? Consumers are today more informed, more aware of the impact of food on their health. Also, they're getting a lot of info on the composition of products and the process for manufacturing. This does create new expectations in terms of food which is more natural, more safe, more authentic, based on a kind of guarantee. What you eat is good for you. This expectation has 2 parts to it: looking for transparency, the need for transparency on the part of consumers, and also looking for guarantees through the choice of products. We're going to see all this per geographical area. In Europe, first, the concept of transparency is expressed by 9 consumers out of 10, expressing it through the composition and the list of ingredients and the origin of ingredients, where they come from. More than 50%, 60% of people are asking for more transparency as to the origin composition of ingredients. In France and Germany, we're going to ask for more transparency on the conditions for farming and breeding. It is true for 4 consumers out of 10, whereas in Russia, 6 consumers out of 10 are asking for more proof of food safety and storage conditions, more transparency, in other words. Reassurance means choosing products will provide to you the guarantee, namely products themselves carry the genuine fact. It is true for naturalness, natural products. In Europe are asked for 54% to 67% are looking for natural products, namely natural, 100% free of any substances, fewer ingredients, more simplicity in the composition, and also through the manufacturing process. It is the case for organic products, which we consume increasingly, which are looked for increasingly. Scores vary from 48% to 79% based on the countries, and the highest scores concerns Russia. There's a real demand for organic products there, and not the UK. UK demand is somewhat stagnating, leveling off. Consumers in Asia are more numerous in asking for evidence of transparency. It's a score which is standing at 99%. A lot of topics where you're looking for transparency, origin, production site, storage conditions. In China, people want more food safety and manufacturing processes. In Malaysia and Indonesia, it means composition, list of ingredients, and production and farming and breeding conditions. In terms of reassurance, in those countries, we will be looking into products which are natural. Scores are beyond 70%. Organic scores that are the highest in all the countries in our study. And we're going to look for products which have quality labels. The label is a warranty for such consumers. Now let's move on to the U.S. The U.S., generally speaking, you have fewer questions about the U.S. However, the score for transparency is 8 consumers out of 10 looking for more evidence of transparency in terms of the list of ingredients and food safety, but also they're less sensitive to all that is origin of the products. And in terms of reassurance, the demand is for natural products more than for organic, which is not really matching U.S. consumer expectations. And last, let's move on to the Middle East. There, 9 consumers out of 10 are expecting proof of transparency. A lot of topics out there: composition, list of ingredients, impact on the health, the manufacturing process, the origin, food safety. And in terms of reassurance, we have the trilogy: naturalness, organic, and quality label, which are for these inhabitants proof and warranty, and they are more inclined to look for those in the Middle East. Let's move on now to sense, making sense, looking for meaning or sense, looking for meaning, something very important and basic in our research. You realize that chosen food is very important. It does make sense. It does provide meaning. Looking for meaning means something which is on a daily basis in a digitalization world and globalization where consumers feel things are not under control. Frequenting some channels for distribution, choosing some products is a way to express the values, your individualism, and a way to take over and choose really your foodstuffs. The quest for meaning involves meaning, changing your habits, feeling play, and buying your groceries differently, which means what? It means short channels, all that is direct purchases from breeders and producers through cooperatives or farmers association. It's true in France, in UK, and also in Russia. We have rates of increases which are quite high. Changing your eating habits. Choosing means choosing what you're going to consume more some products than others. Namely, you want to consume more fish, more fruit, more vegetables, and reducing on your consumption of meat products and preferring plant-based products or protein, plant protein, vegetable protein-based products. Also, consumers are looking more and more for foodstuffs whose packages are biodegradable or eco-friendly. 7 out of 10 people tell it's important to choose products whose packaging is biodegradable. 7 out of 10 worldwide, and also the notion of animal well-being. 8 out of 10 people are looking for products for which well-being was respected. Last, feeling to be an actor, a player, choosing products which are coming from your region. Local products are important for consumers, for 8 consumers out of 10. Feeling a player in fighting food waste, it's important for 9 out of 10 worldwide. Also, being concerned with the farmers, it's a vain word, something new, namely the concern for farmers being aware that farmers or breeders are not sufficiently well paid for their work. It's a conviction shared by 1 consumers in 2 in the world, 73% of the French, 7 out of 10. And last, having this expectation of commitment by all the players and participants to move toward a healthier food. What's interesting is that the figures may differ, but you've got heavy or mega trends, taste, authenticity, and meanings everywhere. I heard a figure, we're talking about innovation. More consumers out there worldwide are interested in your products. 6 out of 10 are interested in new products. More than 4 years ago, in 2014, you're going to see we asked every speaker to focus on France, very short. The same diagnosis on behavior in France will give us some results. What are they, madam? To summarize, in France, demands are amplified. In other words, in a nutshell, through 3 topics: indulgence. Indulgence means gastronomy, sharing, friendliness among friends, and it's strong in France than on the average countries. Demand for transparency. The French people are sensitive to all the talk about food, and if there is information which reveals a scandal, a process which is not really up to par, the need for transparency comes from it all, and it is true in France more than other countries, namely about the origin of the ingredients and the conditions for production and breeding. Third aspect is food which is accountable, responsible. The French people feel that they are in movement. They have the keys to the solution. They're more aware about animal well-being and more aware than others about eco-friendly packaging. They have a concern, as I said, for farmers getting well paid, and 75% of them tell they're ready to pay a few cents more for farmers to be paid right, if they know that the money will go into the pockets of farmers. To wrap up, we're truly, as I said, facing a tidal wave. Consumers are taking over their food through taste, authenticity, and genuine products. Figures are quite striking. You got a significant gap between the French and the average worldwide. Second contribution to the global study. Thank you. Thank you. Second contribution to the approach on consumer behavior. Innovation. Catering is innovation. That's the panorama of the strategy of industrialists. How in the manufacturer's strategy you have three buzzwords: XTC, watching over new products day in, day out. Yes, taste, authenticity, and meaning we observe. We decoded more than 2,500 new products presented at SIAL by the exhibitors. They were analyzed over the summer. Interestingly, how behind three words we can see in terms of offerings. Now, we want to see pictures. Oh, taste, yes, taste, but also not any taste whatsoever. Today, taste must be strong, powerful, potent, segmenting likes and dislikes. This taste must be brought naturally. It must be a natural ingredient or a natural process providing taste, and even new exotic products evoking potency such as let us start with ingredients: ginger, saffron, a lot of ginger, a lot of saffron. We know this, but they're part of daily products such as pasta, ginger, curcuma-based, saffron-based paste, or a lot of spices, chili pepper, truffle. We know truffle. We've seen truffles before. Truffle is part of a lot of products on a daily basis to provide a truly strong taste. It could be also through the process, different procedures evoking naturalness. The fusion catering is using infusion to provide a natural taste to a product. We infuse a lot today. We have products which are foodstuffs, which are infused, such as strawberry-infused yogurts to provide a naturalness. A few years back, we had at SIAL a strawberry yogurt with a Haribo co-branding. It's a natural approach, strong, powerful taste. Maturation, matured meat, which provides a stronger taste. Toasted seeds, that's grape seeds, yes. Infused oil, mint, rosemary, and what have you. And a burger, a matured meat burger, smoked, toasted products or seeds, giving off a strong aroma or flavor, but also fermentation and natural process providing a taste and health benefits. We're going to talk about. Another point is taste coming from elsewhere, natural taste from Korea, Africa. Here is a kimchi jam, typically Korean for European markets. African inspiration, that's a liqueur with herbs and different African products. Peru, the Med, Lebanon, Israel, different countries around the Med, new gastronomic destinations, but also Hawaii with Pokemon, which is an aside with several innovations at SIAL. Now, we talked about taste, we talked about powerful taste, natural taste. What is genuine food? It should be genuine, true, natural, and controlled and controllable for the consumers, natural and functional both. I eat, I gotta watch out, I want to get sick. Functional, it can provide some benefit, that's great. So natural, controlled food, that's very important. Organic food is not a trend. There are very many at SIAL But a new phenomenon is so-called mass market organic food for everyone. The iconic pâté en na, everybody, all the brands, focused on organic. Danone has now organic food, quite new. Private labels are organic food driven. In the French market, we have 8 billion euros in organic food, up 17% within a year, giving rise to some issues. Discount, private label organic foods, volume-based organic foods, which is a problem for a large brand. Mousseline launched Mousseline mashed potatoes using French potatoes, but they're looking for potatoes in Germany due to lack of volume. There's a boulevard, as it were, for smaller companies, SMEs, SMI, who go beyond organic. Pipper here is a French industrialist offering organic chicken with other values, with animal well-being, proximity, convenience, with some values which major groups cannot provide. For organic proximity, eco-design, a new packaging, which has 70% of less material. It's organic but also eco-friendly and does respect animal well-being and notions which are important, namely the right price for smaller companies. Now, natural and controlled means more control when you do it yourself, when you prepare it yourself. If you're preparing your pasta yourself, you know what meat you're going to put in it. Preparing your oneself means control and food safety. A lot of kits out there, a lot of ready-to-make products. 4 years ago, we highlighted mushrooms you could grow yourself. People looked at it askance at the time, but now it's something which is genuine. People want to producing yourself products, such as here, same concept, same startup, which is offering the domestic market garden where you can grow your tomatoes at home. We know this at SIAL. This self-production trend is very present in Southeast Asia, in Jakarta, Indonesia for several years. That type of product is offered to consumers. Self-production is, I would say, very strong in these countries. 21 million inhabitants in Jakarta. That's part of daily life. It's coming to Europe. Self-production, self-preparation. We're into genuine and natural and controlled food. Let's move on to natural and functional food. It must provide benefits, of course. It means plants. Plants are everywhere at SIAL. It's not a new trend, but it's coming more and more to the fore. It's an indulgent plant of the last 10 years. Plants meant health, to treat yourself, to cure yourself. Now, it's a plan to indulge in. Andros launched Gourmand and Végétal. They're talking about indulgence, gourmand. An Italian also is offering rice. Looks like rice. These are legumes. Also, you have legume-based pasta without hard wheat in France. Legumes are very big now. Legumes are peas, lentils, which are quite gourmand-based and are found everywhere at SIAL. Now, that's for consumers referred to which are attracted by plants. I'm not talking about vegans or vegetarians, but flexitarian. It's a new buzzword to describe this consumer, who indulge in food and who promotes plants, eating less fish less meat, turning to plants. Natural and functional means, of course, superfood, superfruit, superfoods, super stuff, increasingly super vegetables, super seeds, super leaves. We talked about moringa, which is the tree providing 1,000 benefits. It's a tree grown in sub-Saharan Africa. It is used in food and cosmetics, some products. At SIAL, we'll present ingredients like moringa. It's a French jam, moringa and lemon, with a lot of nutritional value, which is the most functional one. Other great foods like beet, curcuma, chia, seeds, broccoli, I won't cite them all, obviously, with more power, more potency, as it were, such as moringa. Also, it means microalgae, micro seaweed, which you know from earlier SIAL, spirulina is used very much in food with a French industrialist, Biscuiterie de l'Abbaye, providing or offering a spirulina-based cookie. Corella is used also. It's a micro weed, seaweed, micro seaweed, and a new phenomenon coming up. You got to move on faster, please. You're late. You're running late. Okay. Fermentation is big. The discrete term of the intestines. You're looking at your stomach. You're looking for products which are digestive, namely fermented products, fermentation, bacteria. My gutness is a drink improving the micro function kefir, fruit kefir, fermented water with ferments to which you added fruit, first of the kind presented at SIAL 2018. Now, I will not talk about healthy snacking, but we have a lot of healthy snacking, food on the go at SIAL, providing naturalness, health benefits. Snacking is big, of course, today. Making sense, providing meaning, means a lot of stuff for the consumer. Into three categories: eco-design and free and citizenship-based products. Without desirable ingredients. We have a lot of undesirable ingredients, antibiotics, pesticides, nanoparticles, phenol-based ingredients, which could be risky. Industrialists are responding to this to avoid such ingredients which the consumers refuse. Eco-design, packagings, and more manufacturers are going down this road with claims about preserved resources, smaller packaging, minus 70% cardboard, less plastic. The main issue, a lot of green packagings that are plastic-free, and also products which are recyclable, and also which can be compostable. It's a range of Italian vegetable with 70% less material for frozen foods. Citizenship is big. We talked about animal well-being. It's a worldwide value. It is found in Anglo-Saxon countries and English-speaking countries, and also in Europe it's more French. The right price, making sure that the breed of the producer was paid rightly, the right price for the production. And here we have, that's in France, rabbit products, rabbit meat, and also anti-wastage and proximity. Let us stay in France to see whether we have the same trends in France. In France, as Pascal said, we are pushing things further. In terms of indulgence, we're more creative. We are quite daring. We're not hesitating to revisit recipes, providing new ingredients, changing things due to our chefs. That's found in France especially. Products which are going beyond organic. The French are aware of food risks naturally. The French get an offer of poor ingredient free without any ingredients which are risky, and also French specifically the right price. That's found in France, not elsewhere, although the offering, the supply is not enough. Anti-waste is very important in terms of production. We had a lot of waste in production, but now the consumers at home can waste less. When you buy groceries and you remove or you throw away, cardboard, it was too expensive. So consumers have claims in terms of anti-waste. Are we catching up? You feel that it's very Anglo-Saxon, it's free of everything. It's very striking in America. Or are you catching up or forging ahead? No, we are reacting in France to the consumers who are aware of this. Thank you so much. Second contribution, namely the innovation and supply strategy. Now let's look into the catering changes. Bernard Boudboul of GIRA will tell you about out-of-home catering. Catering is changing drastically. As Nicolas said, it's a transition, that's the right word, a transition between two models, namely between two models of consumption. We're going to talk about consumers and two models of catering. A few figures which tell us what out of the 8 countries under study. First conclusion is that you have several ways to eat, different times where you eat. There's no way to eat which is the same everywhere. The Spaniards spend as much as the Russians in a year. But they're spending, the Emirates and the Germans are spending twice what the Canadians and the Chinese spend, and the French are not going out of home, whereas the French spend less than 30% below the Germans. Expenditures per meal. The French, if you talk about the French, eat 1 times out of 7 out of home, whereas the Canadians eat 1 times out of twice out of home. There is a world apart, but there's a gap between the countries. Anyway, if the pace of out-of-home catering and the expenditures differ in every country, what unites them is the taste, the authenticity, and the meaning. All the planet is rallying around the 3 buzzwords. The consumer just took over. We are in a demand market driven, driven market. What is taste? Namely premiumization. What does it mean, premiumization? We're dealing with restaurateurs that buy better quality raw products, buying them at a lesser price. They go directly to the producer, to the breeder, to the manufacturer, creating even, for some, their own channel of distribution. Is true for the Bimama group, but also others in France, in Europe, and worldwide, which have only one supply. No, they have 1822 supplies, meaning it increases the pleasure of taste. That's the return of taste, the big comeback of taste. We have a wave, whereas we have shorter channels, and a preference for a local strategy. Duplication starts to be reduced. Second part of taste is that you have a mega trend of living and discovering new culinary experiences. Living new culinary experience. We have 4 types of cuisine developing in the planet for the happiness of consumers, not in the right order. South America with the Philippines and Peru. Israeli cooking, we talked about the Med, the countries around the Med, from Lebanon to Greece to North Africa and to France. And the fourth wave is the extended Asia, Chinese cuisine for many years. We're getting into Thai, Vietnamese cuisine. We're focusing on specialties. Their third element or item is that catering is getting magnified and simplified through the planet, especially in France, which was affirmed as a reinterpretation of the classics. We have like a pot-au-feu, a blanquette de veau. We have reinterpretation through well-known chefs. That's French-based products from the soil. Simplification and magnification means also involves a triple expectation from consumers. At the same time, they want, they want a destructuration of meals. 86% of meals have a dessert or a big meal. Anglo-Saxons or English speakers, will just get a salty plate, a salty meal. Consumers would like to eat less and less content. Now we have content, we have different contents or containers which magnify, embellish the product, and which highlight the product. And the third expectation is better quality, high quality. It's obvious. Today, the consumers do not expect a drop in prices or quality, but they want a rise in quality, and they're ready to pay more for quality. Not too much, but they're ready to pay more for quality. Let's move on to authenticity, which means what? Something which imposed itself because thanks to 3 phenomena. First phenomenon is as follows. Consumers lost trust, lost confidence because of the food crises of the last 2 years. Namely, the mad cow was 20 years ago. We had to provide more confidence, more trust. What happens a few years back and recently, kitchens opened up totally to consumers. The consumer wanted to see that there were men and women making, simmering, preparing the food in the kitchens. On-site, second point, the consumers wanted to know not only see, we talked about transparency. You got to talk to the consumers about the supplies, the products, the way it is cooked. Look to the right of the screen. We have a player who set up a philosophical wall in a restaurant. You got a head of the breeder, the head of the farmer, head of the cheese specialist, saying, okay, my suppliers are those, and I pick them because the consumers love that kind of dialogue, which is important to them. First phenomenon dating back 20 years was the mad cow disease, resulting in traceability. The traceability today, about 90% of restaurateurs are tracing back their ingredients. The consumer want to know really precisely what's in the plate, in the bowl, but also in the cooker, in his or sandwich or salad. They want to know what's inside, what he's going to eat. And this is the second phenomenon, which is quite important. We realize that chefs decided to make a commitment to being genuine. They decided to get down to the arena and get embarked upon gastronomy using street food, fast food. Let me give you 3 examples of this. These are star chefs. Daily Pick, Anne-Sophie Pick, selling desserts and in quick food. She came back to Paris. Now that's quick food, and the meal cost 28 euros. Also, you can see this California, $25 for quick or fast food is a rise in quality, which is unheard of. It is not junk food, but we have chefs making commitment to remark. Another way to produce bakery products, you magnify, you highlight the product. He says bread is the staff of life, and you get Di Martin with his concept. Thierry Marx not only selling bread but also salty food. He's got snacking in airports, high upmarket products. Products which are made in his own kitchens. Anne-Sophie Pick is making her own products in her lab at Valence, and Thierry Marx is making all the bakery products. He's got now more than one bakery store. Third wave is LC. There's a problem with healthy. If healthy was sad and mopey, did not work. Sad healthy means healthy food which deprives you of your taste. Consumers refused this. In California, in the U.S., people refused it. Why? Because all that is sad does not doesn't provide any pleasure indulgence. When healthy became gourmand, indulgent, consumers started to want this. It means, giving my body benefits while indulging myself. This is what the consumer did not want. Having no indulgence, no pleasure. We had to bridge the gap. 3 areas of healthy food are, again, Canada first, North America, west of the U.S., California, and Northern Europe with Sweden, Denmark, to cite 2 countries. Healthy and gourmand is quite different from the sad meals you had a few years back. Third is meaning. Quickly, Bernard, we're running late, I guess. Now, giving meaning, providing meaning means going back to basics, having common sense, And moving to a paradox, you have first drivers sharing, making sense, contributing to the pleasure, something which is obvious. Sharing is part of the return of the inn, namely going back to the basics of the restaurants. This is what was an inn way back when. Smaller places, homemade, authentic, a menu for everyone, and it's warm, friendly, and service-driven. We're getting back to the basics of catering in every country that want service and homemade and conviviality, congeniality. Third driver is food, health, and food and health. It's a paradox, which is not found in out-of-home catering. The consumer is aware of the relation between health and food. That's obvious. There is a paradox here because we discovered in many countries that we have, all of us, a dual life food-wise, which means what? What we eat at home, what we buy from retail stores and big stores is quite different from what you eat at restaurants. France has healthy food, no problem. Healthy and gourmet at the same time. We're eating a lot of pizzas with the Americans. We invented the pizza with 4 types of cheese. And we're putting cream in pasta, and the Italians are astonished by this. Café gourmand anyway. There's a paradox here, but that's the way it is. We have a dual life food-wise. And last, in terms of meaning, we're going back to basics, hybrid concepts, which are conquering the planet, several ways to consume in the same place, several ways of retail for consumers. These are consumers who want to buy and consume the products at every stage, semi-finished, finished, raw, to consume on-site or elsewhere. Italy, 26 POSs, and including Rome, 19,000 square meters in Rome, and the famous Time Out Market in Lisbon, which is a departure from the food court invented 40 years ago, having restaurant chains and a food court. Chefs, artisans, breeders come and provide their own products. Many food halls, of course, are to be found in the world. And the last phase of giving meaning is, restoration, a restaurant at home. The product will go to the consumers. Delivery at home, home delivery, office delivery. Some countries are quite advanced, like the Anglo-Saxon countries. There's a slow start for France. What we noted is that the Z generation will trigger the wave of home delivery because they want 10 years from now, they will be working how they want. Amazon is ramping up this to meet their demand. So much for the global approach. What about France? France has three specificities. Is ahead in terms of innovation, became a lab for innovation and a trendy lab worldwide. Second, it's healthy, which is more and more gourmand-driven. We talked about Pokeball. We talked about other products which are coming to the restaurants. Third wave, looked at by the whole world, is gastronomy is everywhere. Covering when chefs, renowned stars and chefs, are producing pasta and quiche, it means that gastronomy must be everywhere. In all the products, be it home delivery or out-of-home catering. Thank you, Bernard. I like this dual food life. It's quite reassuring. A few figures now. We're quite far away from out-of-home catering, but Bernard said the French eat out one time out of 7. And the 28 euros for a great meal, for a gastronomic meal, that's quite high. 28 euros for fast food is quite high priced. Now let me conclude. Basically, what should you get from 3 research pieces? Finally, it does help you understand better. Well, it's quite rich. We heard so much information showing to what extent this crisscross, this cross-reference study is meaningful. It's hard to thank you for the experts to speak so fast in 12 minutes. Now, our challenge is to stir information, and we'll have SIAL Paris in a few weeks to share with all the industry all this information to guide production and inventions. This trilogy, taste, authenticity, and meaning, is very promising. Let me go back to 3 points which are important to me in preparing SIAL. First point is, of course, convergence, consistency. I guess we saw through 3 studies that there is consistency across the board, across the expectations, consistency in terms of worldwide expectations, because whether you're in mature countries or in emerging countries, the same expectation is for taste, authenticity, and meaning. It's globalization, convergence. The second point is we talked about tidal wave. I talked about turning point. We saw a lot of examples proving that we are taking this turn. It is not just brainwashing. Everyone must prove this commitment and actions. Commitment is something. Tidal wave is very important. The last point, which is important to me, namely commitment. Commitment is borne by the consumer, but also picked up by everyone, by the politicians. In France, we can talk about the industrial strategy committees. Every group has a strategy, like Danone offering on Friday a day of revenue to support agriculture. Also, we have Nestle supporting farmers. Everyone made a lot of commitment in communicating initiatives, and this becomes very audible. We got to underscore the work done by food tech, which is exploding. We're proud of the French food tech, which is very dynamic, which makes it possible to work on solutions which will, of course, transform the production models tomorrow. It's quite important today for which will mark and embody transition. Before the Q&A, some words about the yellow posters. Yeah, yellow posters. A lot of people, the star of the show are the 400,000 products, 2,500 products, which are scrutinized to decipher, communicate the changes. We have our Grand Prix. The Grand Prix, let's look at them. We're quite late. Let's move on. We have a jury which was presided over by Mr. Aleno. 800 products were selected. We got to find star ingredients. I talked about by Xavier, embodying taste, health, saffron, ginger. spirulina, we noted for innovation the tidal wave of plants and legumes. It's a major trend starting in 2016. Also, we're going to discover a way to consume in a more accountable way. A lot of angles, a lot of products illustrating this transition. You're going to find, indeed, right, left, and center. You're going to have in your USB keys, your USB stick, all the presentations, all the technical data sheets. Now, let's meet at SIAL Paris in 3 weeks' time. We're nearly there. You're going to have on 22nd October, on Monday, the revelation of the Grand Prix at the Salon at the show to share this food transition.